The town of Dry Hollow had a rule, unspoken but understood. You don't get involved, not in trouble, not in someone else's pain, and definitely not in his business, because everyone knew who he was. Silas Boone, a man who didn't need to shout, because fear spoke for him. That morning, the town felt wrong. Not loud, not busy, just quiet, like something bad had already happened, and no one wanted to admit it. Dust drifted slowly across the street. Men stood outside the saloon, pretending to talk. The shopkeeper arranged items that didn't need arranging, and the sheriff looked anywhere but the road. Then she appeared, a girl, barefoot, stumbling, her dress torn at the sleeve, dirt covering her skin like she had been dragged through the earth itself. She didn't walk straight. She couldn't. Every step looked like it might be her last. People saw her. Of course they did. But they didn't react, didn't move, didn't speak, because they recognized her. And that recognition came with fear. "She's his," someone whispered under their breath. That was enough. Enough to keep everyone still. Enough to keep everyone silent. The girl took a few more steps, her breathing uneven, her eyes unfocused, like she wasn't seeing the town anymore, just trying to stay on her feet. Then, she collapsed, right there in the dirt, right in front of everyone. And still, no one moved. Not the men, not the shopkeeper, not even the sheriff, because helping her meant choosing a side. And in Dry Hollow, people didn't choose sides. They survived. Seconds passed, long, heavy, uncomfortable, the kind of silence that presses into your chest. Then, the sound of hooves, slow, steady, different. A horse came to a stop at the edge of the street. Boots hit the ground, calm, unhurried. A man stepped forward, tall, broad shoulders, sun-worn face, a rancher, Daniel Hayes. He looked at the girl, lying in the dirt, barely moving. Then he looked at the town, at the people, at the silence. Something in his expression changed, not anger, not shock, just understanding. "What happened?" he asked. No one answered. Not a word. Daniel exhaled slowly, like he already knew. He stepped forward. One step, then another. The only man in the entire town who moved. He knelt beside her. Careful, measured, like she might break if he rushed. Her eyes flickered open for a second, just enough to see him. Fear flashed instantly. Even then, even like this. "It's all right," Daniel said quietly, his voice calm, steady, different from anything she expected. For a moment, she didn't move, didn't trust it, didn't trust him, but she didn't pull away either. And that was enough. Daniel slipped one arm beneath her, then the other, and slowly, he lifted her off the ground. The entire town watched. No one spoke, but everyone knew. This moment was about to change everything. Daniel had just lifted her when the voice came. "Put her down." It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The kind of voice that didn't ask twice. The kind people obeyed without thinking. Everything stopped, even the wind. Daniel didn't turn immediately. He adjusted his grip on the girl instead, making sure she wouldn't slip, making sure she was steady. Only then, he looked up. At the far end of the street, a man stood still, well-dressed, clean, controlled. Not like the others, not like the town. Silas Boone. He didn't rush forward, didn't raise his voice. He just stood there, watching, like a man who already owned everything in front of him. The townspeople stepped back slightly, not obvious, but enough. Distance, respect, fear. "That girl belongs to me," Silas said calmly, his eyes fixed on Daniel, cold, certain. Daniel finally turned fully toward him, still holding her, still not moving. "No," Daniel said. One word. Simple. But it hit harder than anything else spoken that day. A ripple went through the crowd. Not loud, but real. Because no one said no to Silas Boone. No one. Silas tilted his head slightly, studying him, like something unexpected had just appeared. You must be new, he said. Daniel shook his head. No. A small pause. Then, just done. That answer landed differently, heavier, because it wasn't rebellion. It was final. Silas took a few slow steps forward, boots pressing into the dust. Measured, controlled. People in this town understand how things work, he said. His tone didn't change, didn't need to. Daniel didn't move. Then maybe that's the problem. The silence that followed was dangerous. The sheriff shifted uncomfortably. The men near the saloon avoided eye contact. Even the shopkeeper stopped pretending to work. Because now, this wasn't just a moment. This was a line. Silas stopped a few feet away. Close enough now. Close enough to see clearly, to judge, to decide. His eyes moved to the girl in Daniel's arms, then back to Daniel. You don't know what you're getting into, he said. Daniel's grip tightened slightly, protective, instinctive. I know enough. Silas let out a quiet breath, almost like disappointment. Not anger. Not yet. You think this is about kindness? He asked. A faint smile. Cold. This is about ownership. The word hung in the air. Ugly. Heavy. Real. Daniel's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes did. Something sharper. No, he said again, slower this time. Stronger. She's not yours. That was it. That was the moment everything shifted. Silas's smile faded, just slightly, but enough. Around them, the town held its breath, because they all knew what came next. Silas didn't shout, didn't react quickly. That wasn't his way. Instead, he stepped even closer, now just a few feet away, face to face, and in a voice low enough that only Daniel could truly feel it. He said, You're making a mistake. Daniel didn't step back, didn't break eye contact, didn't lower his voice. No, he said quietly. I'm fixing one. For the first time, Silas didn't respond immediately, and that silence was more dangerous than anything else. Because when a man like him goes quiet, it means something is about to break. For a moment, no one moved. Not Silas, not the townspeople, not even the wind. Everything just held, like the world itself was waiting to see what Daniel would do next. Daniel shifted the girl slightly in his arms. Careful, steady, like she wasn't just someone he found, but someone he had already decided to protect. Silas watched him, expression unreadable now, cold, calculating. Last chance, Silas said quietly. Put her down and walk away. The words didn't sound like a threat, but everyone knew they were. Daniel didn't respond, not right away. Instead, he turned, slowly, deliberately, and started walking. A ripple of shock moved through the town, small gasps, quick glances, fear spreading like fire under silence, because no one walked away from Silas Boone like that. Each step Daniel took felt louder than it should, boots pressing into dust. A man carrying a choice the whole town refused to make. Behind him, Silas didn't move, didn't call out, didn't stop him. That was the strangest part. The sheriff shifted again, uncertain now, because this wasn't how things usually went. Silas didn't let things go. He took, he controlled, he ended things, but not this time. For a second, her fingers tightened slightly against his shirt. Instinct, fear, or maybe the smallest trace of trust. Daniel paused, just for a moment, then helped her onto the saddle carefully, making sure she stayed balanced. He climbed up behind her. Steady, controlled. Like none of this was rushed. Like he had already accepted whatever came next. Only then did he look back. Silas was still standing there, in the same spot, watching. Their eyes met one last time. No words, no threats, just understanding. This wasn't over. Not even close. Daniel turned forward again, tapped the reins, and the horse moved. Slow at first, then steady. The town watched him leave, every single person, because what they were seeing was something they hadn't seen in a long time. Someone choosing not to be afraid. Behind them, Silas finally moved, just one step. Then he stopped again, a faint smile returning, but this time, it wasn't calm. It was patient. "Let him go," he said quietly, more to himself than anyone else. A man nearby frowned slightly. "You're just going to..." Silas raised a hand, silencing him instantly. "He'll learn," Silas said, voice low, certain. His eyes remained fixed on the road ahead, where Daniel was disappearing into the distance. "And when he does..." A small pause. Cold. "He'll wish he hadn't." The wind picked up again, dust covering the tracks. But not the mistake, because in Dry Hollow, choices had consequences, and Daniel Hayes had just made the biggest one of all. The ride felt longer than it was, not because of distance, but because of everything that had just changed. The town disappeared behind them, its silence, its fear, its rules, all fading into dust. Ahead, open land stretched wide, golden fields, fences worn by time. A quiet ranch sitting alone beneath the sky. Daniel didn't speak during the ride. Didn't rush either, just steady, like he had done this 100 times before. Even though this time was different. The girl barely moved, her head resting weakly against him, breathing shallow, but alive. When they reached the ranch, Daniel stopped the horse near the porch. Everything there was simple, clean, honest. No guards, no fear, no watching eyes. He climbed down first, then carefully lifted her again. Same way as before, firm, but gentle. The wooden door creaked open. Inside, warm light, a quiet room, a small table, a chair, a bed in the corner. Nothing fancy, but safe. He laid her down slowly, making sure her head rested properly, then stepped back slightly, watching. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a small movement. Her fingers twitched, her breathing shifted, and slowly, her eyes opened. Blurred at first, uncertain. She looked around quickly, confused, afraid. Her body tensed, trying to sit up, but she couldn't, too weak. Daniel stepped forward immediately. "Easy," he said quietly. She froze, her eyes locking onto him, fear filling them instantly. Because to her, he wasn't a savior. Not yet. He was just another man. "Don't..." She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. Dry, broken. Daniel didn't move closer, didn't reach out. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. Calm, simple. She stared at him, like she had heard that before. Too many times. Her breathing quickened, panic rising again. Daniel noticed, and stepped back, giving space. That mattered. More than words. "You're safe here," he added. Silence. She looked around the room again. Slowly this time. Taking it in. No chains, no locked doors, no shadows waiting. Just quiet. Her eyes softened slightly. Just a little. But the fear didn't disappear. Not yet. "What do you want?" she whispered. The question hit harder than anything else because it wasn't suspicious, it was expected. Daniel paused, then answered honestly, "Nothing." She frowned slightly, confused. "That's not how this works," she said weakly. Daniel leaned against the wall, keeping distance. Maybe not where you came from, he said. A long pause followed. The air shifted, not fully calm, but different. For the first time, she wasn't trying to escape. She was just looking at him, trying to understand. And for the first time, Daniel realized something. Saving her was the easy part. Convincing her she was free, that would take much longer. Outside, the sun dipped lower, shadows stretching across the land, and far in the distance, dust rose faintly on the horizon. Someone was watching, and they hadn't given up. She was just looking at him, trying to understand. And for the first time, Daniel realized something. Saving her was the easy part. Convincing her she was free, that would take much longer. Outside, the sun dipped lower, shadows stretching across the land, and far in the distance, dust rose faintly on the horizon. Someone was watching, and they hadn't given up. The night came quietly, too quietly. Inside the ranch, everything seemed still. The lantern flickered softly. The air was calm, and for the first time since morning, there was something close to peace. The girl hadn't moved much, still weak, still unsure. But her eyes, they weren't as afraid as before. The girl hadn't moved much, still weak, still unsure. But her eyes, they weren't as afraid as before. Daniel sat across the room, not watching her constantly, not hovering, just there, present. That mattered. You didn't answer, she said softly, her voice still fragile. Daniel looked up. What? Why you helped me? A simple question, but not an easy one. Daniel paused, thinking. Then, because no one else did. She looked down at her hands, quiet. That's not enough, she whispered. Daniel didn't argue, didn't try to convince her. Maybe not, he said, but it was for me. Silence settled again, but this time, it wasn't heavy. Outside, the wind picked up slightly, a low, distant sound moving across the land. Then, hoofbeats, faint, but real. Daniel's expression changed instantly, sharp, alert. He stood, moved toward the window. Slow, careful. The girl noticed. Fear rising again. What is it? She whispered. Daniel didn't answer right away. He looked out into the darkness, eyes scanning. Then he saw it, lights. Not one, not two, several, moving together, coming straight toward the ranch. Daniel stepped back from the window. Calm, but different now. They found us, he said quietly. The words hit like cold steel. Her face went pale. The small sense of safety she had just begun to feel shattered. No, she whispered. Her breathing quickened again, panic returning fast. They don't stop, she said. They never stop. Daniel moved toward the door, reaching for his rifle. His movements were controlled, practiced. Stay inside, he said. She shook her head weakly. No, if they see me. They won't, Daniel cut in. Firm, certain. For a moment, she just stared at him, because his voice didn't sound like hope. It sounded like a promise. Outside, the hoofbeats grew louder, closer, dust rising under moonlight, figures forming in the distance at the front. A familiar silhouette, Silas Boone. Even in the dark, his presence was unmistakable. He didn't rush, didn't shout. He simply approached, like a man collecting something that already belonged to him. Daniel stepped out onto the porch, rifle in hand, standing alone. Between them, open ground. Behind him, the only place she had ever felt close to safe. Silas stopped a short distance away, his men spreading slightly behind him. Evening, Silas called calmly. Daniel didn't respond. Silas glanced at the house, then back at him. "You've made this harder than it needed to be." Daniel tightened his grip slightly. "You're not taking her?" A small pause. Then, Silas smiled. Not polite, not patient. This time, it was something else. "Tonight," he said quietly. "That's not your choice." The wind picked up again, stronger now. And in that moment, everything was clear. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was a war. The wind howled across the open land, dust swirling between two sides, one man, and many. Daniel stood firm on the porch, rifle steady in his hands, eyes locked on Silas. No fear, no hesitation, just a line, drawn in the dirt. Silas studied him for a moment, then sighed softly, almost disappointed. "It didn't have to end like this," he said. Daniel's voice came back cold. "It doesn't have to." A pause. "Turn around," Daniel added. "Take your men, and leave." Silas let out a quiet chuckle, shaking his head. "You still don't understand," he said. His eyes flicked briefly toward the house, then back. "That girl isn't just some lost soul," he continued. "She's leverage." The word cut through the air. Daniel's grip tightened. "She's a person," he said. Silas smiled faintly. "To you, maybe." Then, he raised his hand, and everything changed. A gunshot cracked through the night. Daniel moved instantly, firing back. Chaos exploded across the quiet ranch. Shots rang out. Horses shifted violently. Men shouted. But Daniel didn't move from the porch, didn't retreat. Every shot he fired was controlled, precise. He wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to hold the line. Inside, the girl covered her ears, heart racing, tears forming. Because this was because of her. "No," she whispered. Another gunshot, closer this time. Something inside her shifted, fear turning into something else. She stood, weak but determined. Step by step, she moved toward the door. Outside, the fight slowed, not because it was over, but because something unexpected happened. She stepped out. "Stop!" Her voice broke through the night, sharp, clear. Everything froze, even Silas. She stood there, fragile, shaking, but standing. "I'm not going back," she said. Silas frowned slightly. "You don't get to choose," he replied. Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice didn't fall. "I do now." A long silence followed, because something had changed. Not the power, not the danger. Her. Silas studied her carefully, then glanced at Daniel, and for the first time, there was hesitation. Not fear, but calculation. He looked back at her, then finally lowered his hand. "This isn't over," he said quietly, then turned his horse. One by one, his men followed. The dust settled slowly. The night grew quiet again. Daniel lowered his rifle, breathing steady. The girl stood there, still shaking. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, slowly, she looked at him, not with fear, not anymore. "With you," she said softly. "I'm not afraid." Daniel didn't answer. He didn't need to, because for the first time in her life, she wasn't running. She wasn't owned. She wasn't alone. She had something she had never known before. Not safety, not just freedom. A home. The only one she'd ever truly have.